Every year, on the Sunday following Easter, poor Thomas gets attacked for doubting that Jesus was risen from the dead. Those words spoken by Thomas should dispel any notion that we have about Thomas's lack of faith. Because when Thomas saw Jesus, he not only came to terms with his doubts, but he expressed something that the other apostles never expressed up to this point, a true understanding of what the whole scenario of the death and resurrection was all about. Only Thomas spoke those words that connected Jesus and God as being one. This is something that eventually the other apostles would get, but at this point, it was only Thomas that comprehended this. With that said, most often when we listen to a homily regarding this gospel, the focus is on the nature of doubt or on the importance of faith. And this is certainly an important topic, but today I want to focus on something a little bit different. I want to focus on an aspect of the story that we often overlook. And that aspect can be found in the answer to this question: how did Thomas recognize the risen Lord? I think that we all know the answer to that. He witnessed first the hand and the wounds in Jesus' hand and side, and this to him was convincing evidence. When he saw Jesus, it wasn't this familiar face or any kind of aura surrounding Jesus that convinced Thomas that he indeed was the crucified Christ standing before him. No, Thomas recognized Jesus in his wounds and in his brokenness and in his flawed appearance. You see, Jesus' resurrected body was not restored to its pre-crucified state. No, his body still contained the wounds of this terrible ordeal, signs of the great pain and suffering that he endured, signs of a broken and sinful world. It was in the wounds of Jesus that Thomas was able to declare, "My Lord and my God." And there's a reason for that. Each and every one of us carries wounds of one kind or another. It's just that for most of us, the hurt doesn't show. Let me give you a little scenario of what I mean about this. Did you ever receive a package in the mail that looked like an elephant was jumping up and down on it? Of course, we know from experience when we see that, more often than not, when we open a mutilated package, the stuff inside is damaged. But we also know that a package can arrive in perfect shape, but yet the articles inside are still damaged. Perfect on the outside, torn to pieces in the middle. That's the way it is with us. Many of us, we're all banged up, some on the outside, some on the inside, and some both. On the outside, we can be wounded by the ravages of disease or injury, not able to get around without a wheelchair or a walker or something of that nature. Perhaps we're not able to hear like we used to, or even see like we used to. And on the inside, we're scarred by our own selfishness, sinfulness, wounded by others, devastated by others that may be suffering from alcoholism, drug abuse, and things of that nature in the family. We hobble through life of uncertainty, filled with anxiety and even despair as jobs are lost. Mothers, fathers, sons, and daughters are deployed to the Middle East. We shudder as we witness the effects of the worldwide poverty, hunger, abortion, corruption in government, and of course now the situation with the COVID-19. And what do we do? Do we gloss them over, daring not to show anyone? We wish they were not part of our society or even part of us. But they are. And even when we have to begin to deal with things like this, of this nature, even when we have been forgiven and forgiven others, even when we have begun to truly live as creations in the light of the resurrection, like Jesus, the evidence of these wounds still remain. And this is why it is important to know that Thomas recognized Jesus by his wounds. By retaining the wounds of his passion, the glorified Jesus is showing us that we can find hope and strength by taking our wounds and uniting them with his wounds. By Jesus retaining his wounds, the 11 apostles of today's gospel passage turned discouragement and fear into promise and hope. They were now beginning to understand that Jesus had to die first before being resurrected on Easter Sunday. They were now beginning to understand that the risen Jesus would bear his 5 wounds as an eternal reminder that when our wounds are united to his wounds, we will find true peace. All he asks of us is to bring our wounds to him in the Eucharist. And it is there in the tabernacle that his wounds will heal us. It is there that he will give us the strength to deal with our hurts. Remember that it is in these wounds that Thomas understood Christ's divinity. And it is in these wounds that today we celebrate Divine Mercy Sunday. And it is in these wounds, united with Christ, that we proclaim, my Lord and my God.